Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Riley and I are checking in for the day. Today is Wednesday, June 19th, and it is day 48 of our Appalachian Trail through hike attempt. It is it's not super early anymore. I don't know what time it is as usual, but the temperature feels fine for now. I'm sure it'll get hot later in the day, but it feels, especially as we're not moving yet, feels fine for now. This is where we camped last night. We had our tent set up right there, and I got a wonderful sleep. So amazing. Sometimes I wish the sleep could just continue and continue and continue without feeling the need to push on. But once the daylight comes up, that need to push on just permeates the mind, permeates everything, and it wouldn't feel good to continue to sleep as it's getting later and getting warmer. But the sleep was absolutely amazing. It's almost like the whole purpose of being out here is just to be able to get to camp and then have those wonderful night sleeps, as well as the wonderful food that tastes so good. I packed out some cheddar cheese from the Food Lion in Parisburg and had some crackers and peanut butter and cheese, and the cheese made it extra special. That was for a snack after we got our camp set up last night. Okay, so we're gonna start the day, get moving. Riley, how you doing? How are you doing? Yes, good boy. Riley got a good night's sleep as well. Okay, we'll check in later. We've been hiking on the trail this mid-morning, and it's just been like trail. Not much in the way of anything in particular to look at, but we just came upon a couple signs. Look at this, it's like an entryway that goes there, and there's a trail that goes there, and Riley just keeps taking me further and further away from where I want to what I want to show here. Riley's gonna find a spot to plop down, I think. What are you doing, Riley? What are you doing, buddy? Now he's leading me back. I think we might take a break here, but anyway, so there's this. Here's just the AT sign, so it says Pine Swamp Shelter, 2.5 miles northbound, and then here, oh my goodness, Riley. All right, I think Riley's gonna let me here. Okay. Oh my goodness, Riley. Riley is on the Allegheny Trail now, as am I. Riley, hey, let's meander just a couple steps over here so we can see the sign. Very nice. All right. Allegheny Trail, Salt Sulphur Turnpike 3.5, Hanging Rock Observatory 11.5, Hanging Rock Trailhead 12.5, White Sulphur Springs 40, Northern Terminus 315. All right, so this is a cool trail, I think. 315 miles in total, and then an informational sign. The Allegheny Trail is a partnership between the U.S. Forest Service, the West Virginia Scenic Trail Association, the state of West Virginia, and private landowners. The 330-mile long trail runs south from the Mason-Dixon line to the Appalachian Trail in Monroe County, West Virginia. Well, that's interesting. Isn't that interesting? Because like it seems like this is a terminus of the Allegheny Trail, unless it continues on the AT somewhere, which is possible, I suppose. But it seems like this is the start, and we are not in Monroe County, West Virginia right now. We are in regular Virginia. And I don't think we're on the Mason-Dixon line either, so that's a little confusing. But anyway, yellow blazed Allegheny Trail. Pretty cool. We're making our way to Pine Swamp Branch Shelter, and the trail has become very pleasant. Very easy to walk on. That usually means we're getting close to a shelter. And we've done a big descent, and the descent has been made easier by lots of switchbacks. So I'm always thankful when the trail gives us some easy walking. Looks like the trail may have continued that way at one point. Something goes down that way. It's not as hot as yesterday, which is also something that is a welcome change. Ah, yes, that down there is part of the switchback, so we're accessing it now by this turn. And there's also lots of shade in this section, which helps keep us cool. This is like the first on-trail water source since we left Harrisburg. I brought lots of water with me, so I haven't needed to stop for water since leaving Harrisburg. I don't have much energy to talk. I'm just speaking very slowly, conserving my energy, trying to walk at a comfortable pace. All right, so we'll check in later. So Riley insisted that we stop in to the shelter. This is Pine Swamp Branch Shelter. And we're just taking another break here. This is our third break of the day. And we've gone 5.2 miles so far. Always nice to, the shelter isn't very far off the trail, so that's nice. And it's always nice to be able to get like fully inside the shelter, where you get lots of good shade. And it definitely feels cooler. Not super cool, but definitely feels cooler than being out there in the sunlight. And it feels good to sit on a nice flat surface as well. This shelter is kind of interesting. It's got like 2 levels, but it's not continuous. So it doesn't have a high capacity for people. Like you could just fit one person on each of these 2 top levels, and then you could fit 2 people, I guess, on each of these lower levels. But the person... It would seem awkward for the person who's further in. You'd have to step over the person that's farther out, because he can't get out like directly since the stone is in the way. And then with this gap here, that just reduces the number of people that can stay in the shelter, unless people, I guess if they wanted to, they could set up just on the dirt here, and they'd still have the protection of the roof. Anyway, we haven't seen anybody else on trail so far today. Not a single person. So it's like Riley and I have the whole trail to ourselves. And I got my guidebook out here. So this is where we are here, Pine Swamp Branch Shelter. According to the AWOL guide, it's mile 654.7, but that's a little bit behind, a little bit less than what the Far Out app would tell me is the current accurate mileage. Yeah, so we did a big descent here to get down to the shelter, and then the next shelter is only 3.9 miles away, Bailey Gap Shelter, but that's all the way up here. So there's a big climb. And I remember this climb and this shelter very well from my 2017 hike. which is the first hike that I did on the AT. I just remember I stayed at the shelter on July 8th of that year. And when I got there, it was definitely evening time. And I just remember being super exhausted after doing this climb. I think it caught me by surprise, and I was just very, very, very tired. And I remember remarking to the guy who was there, his name was Chief, I still remember. And we talked about how crazy hard that climb was. And it's interesting that you just have this steep descent and then a little bit of flat and then a steep ascent. Some people talk about this thing on the AT that's known as pointless ups and downs. And people talk about it so much that they give it an acronym, PUD or PUDs, pointless ups and downs. And so I think this would kind of qualify, like, because you have a big steep descent. And then I guess you could say the point is that you're getting closer to a good water source. And then there's, like, almost immediately after you have a steep uphill. Anyway, it's up to us to figure out what the point is. I mean, there's so many things that you can say are pointless. But we're out here to hike, right? So there's going to be ups and downs, and that's part of the challenge of it all. All right, so we'll check in later. We're going to enjoy our break here. I'm giving Riley a little snack here during our break. A little bit of food mixed with water. And I noticed in the shelter here, this is still Pine Swamp Branch Shelter, but over the fireplace, it says, "In memory of Robert William Trimpe, 1951 to 1969. And there's a shelter that's we already passed on the trail called Trimpe Shelter. We passed it it wasn't that long ago that we passed it. I think it was south of Harrisburg somewhere. So I didn't realize that Trimpe Shelter must have been named after that guy, Robert William Trimpe. And I didn't realize that he only lived to be 18 years old, 1951 to 1969. So, it makes me curious who Robert William Trimpe was. He must have done something important in his life to get a memorial here and also get a shelter named after him. So, maybe I'll look that up sometime. This is part of the steep ascent up to Bailey's Gap Shelter. Just part of it. This is probably the steepest part. I think we're only about a half mile away from the shelter at this point. We passed a guy taking a break a short while ago, and Riley remembers that he's back there. So he's doing very well to keep hiking northbound, but periodically he wants to take breaks to wait for him. It's definitely warmed up. This is me, enjoying every second. right, we'll check in later. I offer a free Snickers bar to anyone who can guess what just happened. The guy who was behind us passed us, and I'm giving him time to get ahead of us so that our walking will be a little bit easier. But Riley's like, let's go, go, go. Yeah. We'll check in later. Hello again. So we made it up the steep climb to Bailey's Gap Shelter. That's where we are now. We're just taking a break here. That's the sun up there. I think it's still relatively early, maybe like 5 or 6 o'clock. And Riley is right there. I gave him a snack and some drink earlier, meaning water. So he's taking a break, and I am enjoying a nice, so this is the shredded cheese that I got actually at the Food Lion in Harrisburg, which I got with the intention of adding it to my salad. And I added some to the salad, but then I was able to pack out the rest, and so I've decided to add peanut butter and the cheese to my crackers, and it makes a nice, very tasty little snack here. So I'm just relaxing on this and hydrating a little bit. I feel like I mostly take shots when we're taking breaks, because that's just when it's easiest for me to break out the camera and I feel the most relaxed. So that's all. There were earlier in the day I said we hadn't seen any hikers, and we took a break after Pine Swamp Branch Shelter. There was like a campsite, and Riley and I just got off to the side of the trail, just barely into the campsite, and laid down for a while. And after a while, 2 hikers came and passed us, and then a 3rd hiker came and passed us, and then then he took a break and we passed him, and then he caught up to us, and then we saw each other once more. So we've seen 3 hikers today, but now all 3 of those hikers are ahead of us, and we're all alone again. So I don't know if we'll see any more hikers. We'll find out. But it's just me and Riley here. So it's like we have the whole world to ourselves. Except for the insects, of course, and the butterflies and the ants and all these critters here. So another thing is, so we're at Bailey Gap Shelter, and the big climb is partly made slightly more difficult because there's 2 roads that you cross shortly before getting to the shelter. So according to this guidebook here, there's this bridge that you cross, which leads into a road crossing at Virginia Route 635. And shortly after crossing this road, there's a sign that says, there's 2 items on the sign. It says Bailey Gap Shelter, 1.1 miles, and Forest Service Road, something, gives some number for the Forest Service Road, and it says that's 0.8 miles away. So that gives you the impression that when you get to the Forest Service Road, that it should just be 0.3 of a mile until you get to the shelter. 1.1 minus 0.8. But according to the guidebook that I have, and basically this sign is like almost right after you cross the road. So it's basically indicating how far the shelter is from the road. But according to the guidebook here, it's not 1.3 miles to, I'm sorry, it's not 1.1 miles to the shelter. It's 1.5 miles. So that's 0.4 of a mile longer than what's indicated on the sign, which is a significant amount. If you're, yeah, like you can feel the difference between 1.1 and 1.5. And so it said 0.8 to the road, to the Forest Service Road, and it's really 1 mile to the Forest Service Road. So you're thinking that it's only 0.8 miles, but it's really 1 mile. So it basically feels, if you don't look at the guidebook here and you're just trusting the sign, it just feels like a very long 0.8. And then once you get to the road, you're thinking that if you're trusting the sign, you're thinking that it should just be 0.3 to the shelter, but it's really 0.5 to the shelter. So that turns out to be a long 0.3 if you're thinking that's 0.3 miles. Anyway, I didn't look at the guidebook. I was trusting the sign, but I had a vague recollection that the sign was incorrect. And then I confirmed it with the guidebook information. So that's just like an example of things can be more difficult if you're operating under false expectations of them being easier than they actually are. Whereas if you go in thinking that something is hard, or you go in without any expectations, then it's a lot easier than if you go in thinking that something's going to be easier than it actually is. Yeah. So, all right, that's all for now. Not too much to say here. All right, we'll check in later. All right, Riley and Van Gogh here checking in. We are continuing on north from Bailey's Gap Shelter. We've been hiking for a little bit since leaving the shelter. And I'm feeling like this section of trail here is quite rocky. So I figured I'd break out the GoPro and do a little filming just to show what the terrain looks like. Because as I mentioned earlier, I feel like I'm always just taking shots like when we're taking a break or when it's nice and easy. So I decided let's switch it up here. Let's take some footage on some more strenuous, difficult terrain. Riley is hiking well now in front of me. He's not trying to catch up to anybody, and he's not tugging, he's not pulling too hard, so I'm fine with him hiking in front of me when he's hiking like this. And I think it's more fun for him when he's in front too. All right, so the terrain is leveling out here, but it's kind of like off and on, like it levels out and then it gets rocky again and then it levels out. It just does whatever it wants to do. Riley is just a master at navigating the trail here. He's so much better than a human is. Humans have the advantage that we can wear shoes to protect our feet. But Riley's paws are very, very strong. And he's just very adept at navigating all the twists and turns. And the other thing is that, which I haven't really heard anybody talk about, but it just seems to me that, like, in terms of dealing with the rocky terrain, yes, it's going to naturally be, or dogs are at a disadvantage if they're not wearing shoes or some type of foot protection to protect their paws. But one mitigating factor is that their paws are just much smaller than a human's foot is. So for a human, when we're dealing with rocky terrain like this, and we're wearing shoes, which we're always going to be doing, the main difficulty is when you get like these rocks that are not very, like a big rock like this is very easy because I can just put my whole foot on it and it's just flat. It just feels flat on the bottom of my foot. But a smaller rock that's like smaller than the size of my foot is much more difficult for me, because then I can only, when I put my foot down, it's only going to be covering part of the rock, and that creates uneven terrain for me, for my foot, and it creates the possibility of twisting something or falling or losing my balance. But anyway, so with Riley, my point is just that since his paws are so much smaller than a human's foot, the same rock that might cause me difficulty, because when I put my foot down, part of my foot's going to be on it and part of it's going to be off it. It's much more likely for a lot of these rocks that Riley, when he puts his paw down, that it's going to be big enough for his entire paw to fit on it. And so it's not going to be as challenging for him to walk over. Like, obviously it's still challenging for him, but the fact that his paws are so much smaller than my feet are, the rocks just don't present as much of a challenge for him, because he has much more opportunity to get a constant level surface to walk on. That's the point I'm making. I'm not making the point that dogs don't need paw protection. With Riley, I have ordered a pair of booties for him. I don't have them on me, but I've ordered them, and I'm planning to pick them up when I see my parents. And I'm going to try to get Riley comfortable with wearing them. In the past, he has not liked wearing booties, so I don't know if I'm going to be successful with getting him comfortable wearing them. But yeah, my thought is just if I can get him comfortable wearing them, then that'll be just one additional thing that could help him when we're going over some rough terrain. But I think even without the booties, I think he has a good chance at navigating whatever terrain we encounter, and doing all right with it. But time will tell. We'll see. All right, so I think I've gotten a good amount of footage here of the terrain, and got to be mindful of how much battery life and how much storage space I have. So I will plan to check in later. Yeah, we're definitely getting into the evening time for tonight, and we're really entering Riley and my time in terms of our prime hiking time of the day, because it's not feeling unduly warm right now, so it's just very comfortable hiking weather. And we're just gonna, I think we'll plan to hike until dark and find a campsite. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll check in later. All right, bye for now. We saw a deer a short while back, and that energized Riley. He's on higher alert now. He was hiking behind me for a while, and I just let him take the lead as I put my camera on. So the terrain now is pretty pleasant, at least here. But the foliage is very dense, and one might say overgrown. So it keeps brushing against our arms and legs, but it's not stopping us from moving. The main thing that stops us from moving is the heat at this point. And that's the reason that this evening hiking is just so pleasant for us, because we don't have to fight the heat. Riley does so much better in these moderate temperatures. He doesn't ask to take nearly as many breaks as he does during the early part of the day when it's much hotter. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about with regard to dense foliage. We should be getting close to a road soon, and when we cross that road, it's some Virginia route number 6 something, 630 something, I think. Yeah, when we get to that road, I believe we'll have done about 12.8 miles on the day, which is pretty close to, it's a little bit under the average that I try to attain as a minimum goal, which is now 13 miles a day. So we should be getting there soon. And then I'm thinking when we get there, it'll still be a little bit light out, so we should be able to go a little bit beyond. Next shelter is called War Spur Shelter, and from Bailey's Gap Shelter that we passed, or that we took a break at most recently, War Spur Shelter is 8.8 miles from Bailey's Gap Shelter. So I think that's probably a little far for us to get to tonight, but I think we might be able to get a substantial portion of the way there. Also, I don't have any water on me now. I do have a can of carbonated water that is citrus twist flavor, which I picked up as part of a Trail Magic a few days ago, and I just decided to carry with me for like an emergency situation. But I don't have any other water on me, partly because my guidebook said that there should be a water source, a reliable water source 1 mile after Bailey's Gap Shelter, and I did not see any water source. But the next water source is supposed to be, at least according to my guidebook, is supposed to be like a little over 6 miles from Bailey's Gap Shelter. So we might not get there tonight, but I'm not too concerned with that. So this probably means we're pretty close to the road. They usually have these signs here. Riley, hold up, buddy. Hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up, Riley. Riley, can you please let me come closer to the sign? All right, so this says, you are here. So this is like a map here. That's kind of cool. Oh, wow, this is cool. So, Appalachian Trail, and then this is a road here. And this is Riley. Oh my goodness. Come here, buddy. Can you like stay put? Okay, yeah, so this is the trail, I'm guessing. This is the AT. And then this is a road that curves, I think. And then maybe this is a pond here. And so, I don't know. But it says Bailey's Gap Road. Oh no, this is the trail here. Riley, please! This is the AT here. Okay. And then this is Bailey's Gap Road. And this is Miney Ball Hill, 0.4 miles. Salt Sulphur Turnpike Road, Mountain Lake, 5 miles. But this is the AT, right? I assume? And it says you are here. And then we're just going to continue north. So this is all good information, but like I don't see why I care about any of this stuff, because we're just going to go that way. All right, I'm I was confused initially and trying to understand. So at least we're at that road now. Very cool. So looks like there's some cars in the parking area. Riley seems to be energized to get to this road crossing. They have a nice trailhead informational board over there. I always keep my eye out for trail magic when I get to these road crossings. I don't see any trail magic here. It's all good. I have plenty of food on me. All right, so Mountain Lake Wilderness. Riley, hold up, dude. Mountain Lake Wilderness. Okay, so yeah, so this sign is more understandable. You are here. We've just crossed the road. Here's Miney Ball that I was talking about. And then we're just going to continue on this way. Something called Kelly Knob here. Wind Rock. White Rocks Campground and Virginia's Walk Trail. Okay. All right, very good. So we will check in later. Goodbye for now.
Hello, hello. Riley and Van Gogh here, checking in to close out the day. So we got to a campsite. Yeah, of course we got to a campsite. We're in our tent now, and it's this place called Lone Pine Peak. So it's just the top of the current mountain that we're on, and we're about 2.5 miles from the next shelter, which is Warspur Shelter. We hiked about 6.3 miles after Bailey Gap Shelter in the evening in the pleasant temperatures. So that definitely the evening is our best hiking period, easiest hiking for us. Anyway, so according to Far Out, we're at mile 667.3, and we hiked a total of 15.5 miles today. And I felt good for the most part. I was tired in the morning, but I started to feel better later in the day, as I usually do. So with that, we will say goodnight. I hope everyone who's watching this is doing very well, and we will check in tomorrow. Bye for now.